No, it's true. Jimi Hendrix from Seattle is a little different than Ray Charles from Georgia. They're both geniuses, but they're different. And not just being one left-handed. And then you got some who are, Christian and Muslim, and some who are Hindu. Bell Hooks, my dear sister, she's a black Buddhist. Now, it's not a mass movement among Negroes, but you got some black Buddhists. Then you got black agnostics and so forth. We all had to become multi-contextual. But then in each context, you have to try to learn what is the best about that context that allows you to grow and flower and flourish. And then you have to look at yourself and say, what's the best thing about me that I can bring that context actually can learn from? So you try to shape that context in the best of you, allow yourself to be shaped in the best of that context. Now, each context has the worst. You got to stay away from it. All of us have the worst inside of us. Try to stay away from it. We're always unsuccessful. You try again, fail better. As Beckett says, we end up just failing better. Because no one of us are going to pull the whole thing off. Even those who say they're colorblind. You see, there's a sense in which it's just not true. But if you're love struck, you know you're going to fall on your face. You just hope that people will be there to understand your vulnerability. Because that's another important point. Mm-hmm. I mean, and you all teach me on this in terms of corporate context, right? How do you allow yourself to be vulnerable in such a way that you actually are able to affirm the best of who you are and grow? Or are there contexts in which you hold off because you don't have enough trust in the other and therefore you don't want to feel as if you're being put down or demeaned? Now that's a judgment call. But I can say this, well, without any serious vulnerability, there's not going to be bonds of trust. Without bonds of trust, you're not going to be the grand enterprise that you ought to be. You have to have some kind of trust in place of various sorts in order for people to actually allow their strengths to be manifest. Does that make sense to you all? Does that make sense? I mean, I could be wrong about this because I don't spend a lot of time in corporate context. I like to come and learn and listen. Because Prince is not really corporate, but it's tilting in that direction. We struggle. Because education is a different model, though, right? We need the cash, we need big money, but at the same time, you got to have paideia. You got to have deep education. And that kind of what you attend to is going to be fundamentally issues of life and death and pain and pleasure and so forth. The formation of attention in a corporate context is you first attend to profit making. Because all this talk in the world is going to be empty. You don't make no profits. Right. Oh, Brother West got a nice thing he's saying. It's a great insight, but Home Depot about to shut down because they get shifted in their attention. No, you got the attention to make sure your profits are flowing. And the condition under which that takes place. Fair and just and so forth and so on. But then in addition to that, you got human beings involved. And human beings are never solely or exclusively profit-making animals. Never. You see, you got families, they got love connections, they've got curious questions, they got perplexities that they're dealing with, and so forth. So you have to have a context in which that humanity can be embraced, affirmed, reshaped as you then attend to that bottom line. At Princeton, we don't attend to the bottom line. If the fundamental end and aim of Princeton is to make profits, then we need to give it up and become a corporation. And we need each other. That's part of the division of labor in society. We need each other. Sorry to go on so long on that.
No, that was a wonderful. We are enriched by having you here. We're happy to hear all your thoughts. Our next question is, what are your thoughts about diversity in corporate America?
First, look at this term diversity, though. I mean, I've always thought that it's a kind of neuter term in a way, diversity. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because we're all so diverse. We have different hair colors, and eye colors, and nose shapes, and all that's diversity, you see. So when people use that word, they must be talking about a certain kind of diversity. They're talking about male supremacy, white supremacy. They're talking about ethnic prejudice. They're talking about homophobic sensibility, losing sight of the humanity of disabled brothers and sisters, and even the elderly. See, now those are just 6 forms of diversity out of thousands of possibilities when it comes to diversity. So there's a sense in which I like to spell it out. Yeah. So the question would be, What are your thoughts about white supremacy, male supremacy, in corporate America? How do we deal with it? How do we engage it? And so forth. You see. And one of the ways you do that is, first you just try to be a decent human being and make sure you acknowledge the degree to which you have been shaped by those histories. There's no one of us who have not in some way been shaped. Even if we try to transcend, we transcend not in terms of denying, but in working through and working with others to get through it. Secondly, I think that when we look at the markets, who's out there? What does the world look like? See, it's not just a diverse world. It's a world of different countries and colors and cultures and so forth. And if you're talking about market expansion and so forth, then as Brother Marvin said, rightly so, you're going to have some understanding and even respect for the people who decide to be customers for your high quality products. And that's not just a contract or a compact, it is a trust bond. It's not just quid pro quo, it's because you actually are performing a service. The service is not just providing a commodity, right? You're actually creating a context in which Home Depot has a certain kind of metaphoric gravitas. So it doesn't have just a financial identity. It's got something else. And this is true for all the great corporations, as I understand it, from McDonald's and what would be some of the others. I'm going to be at Starbucks tomorrow, all right? And I don't even drink coffee, but that's a whole other thing. But there's something more than just that financial identity. You see, there's something metaphoric. There's something that's almost mythic about it. And that's that'd take a whole lot to unpack, probably. But
it's a great start.
That's what I want you to inspire. But is there such a thing? I mean, when people think of the Home Depot brand, what comes to mind in your customers? Does anybody know? What would you like for it to come in mind? What would it be? Great customer service. Caring. You see, caring is a non-market value that facilitates market activity. You can't have markets without non-market value. Like trust is non-market. But you can't have markets without trust. Because markets is about contract. Contract without trust, that's gangster activity. Yeah. When you sign a treaty, you make a contract, or you get married, oh honey, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And then the next day you're off doing something else that manifests your lack of trust. That's gangster activity. It really is. It's wrong. It's unethical. Right? And so you got to have non-market values built into your conception of yourself as